Yo, what's going on, guys? We are here today to do a news. We haven't done a news update for probably a month or two now. So I thought it's time with the new year and everything. Might as well go in, jump in, see what we got, finishing up for 2024, and let's see what we can find. So we're gonna jump over here to SLE Rocks, and we are gonna see what is going on here. So what we have here is let me look. I want to look at some of these album reviews in as well, but let's go through the recent post here. All right, see if anything that catches our eye. Looks like here on the 26th, DDR Music Group reveals its top 35 glam, sleaze, and hard rock release, which we did do a reaction video to. Uh, to that, we did a tier basically of all 35 albums, and I do like some of Lance's choices, which I as an update, that video will be out by the time you see this. So you can check it up here on the top corner. I'll put the link to that video, to that reaction to his top 35 album releases. Now, I did say in that video that I wasn't aware of the Keel self-titled album, which after I did that video, I went over and burned it on the or ripped it from vinyl to my iPod, and I have to say I was impressed with it because like I said, I had that album, that vinyl for 10 years probably, and I just never got around to you know listen to it because I don't really listen to music in front of my record player. I just rip it from my record player, and I got a lot of stuff back 10 years ago for really cheap, like a dollar, $2, $3, some rare titles because it just wasn't very popular, and certainly vinyl didn't take its moonshot, as far as price and stuff, and didn't get real popular until a couple years after I started collecting. So I got quite lucky on some of those vinyls records. So yeah, the Keel though it is a good album. All right, here we got let's see. Stolen Prayer, a great new band. Move on You, a new video single, which I did not listen or see yet, but I am a big fan of Stolen Prayer. Stolen Prayer is like a modern version of Poison, even with a little bit of sleaziness to them. Great stuff. Um, but I am always telling them, man, we need physical product. We need physical EPs here, CDs. I mean, I'll take vinyl if that's the only thing you got, but I prefer CDs. But, anything, man. Stolen Prayer needs to get out there a little bit more. Definitely, they got a bright future if they stick with it, and just get promoted properly. So, but yeah, JT Shea, very good guitar player. He's also in the Lost Hearts, which is a good band. He was in Native Sons as well, which I was a fan of them too. And then CC Nix, really good vocalist, and then the rest of the boys in the band. Just a good band in general. Big fan of Stolen Prayer. All right, what else we got here? Tim Ripper Owens feels like his time in Judas Priest was like his college. That's quite understandable. Touring around with one of the best traditional, OGs metal bands like ever. So definitely, even though it was in the '90s when and early 2000s when metal was kind of dead, still great experience and great knowledge to learn from the boys in Judas Priest. Tim Ripper just still great vocalist. A great Rob Halford replacement, in my opinion, to take over Rob's spot in Judas Priest for a short time.
Hey, Justin Adams from Ocean here, and you guys are watching the one and only Krash Kourse Metal Show.
All right, LA Guns announced new U.S. tour dates in support of their upcoming album Leopard Skin, which is interesting because I thought about going to one of these shows, but I don't know. It's on a Sunday night. I'm gonna need to convince myself to go because we'll see, we'll see. But I wouldn't mind because I did pass up a couple times to go see LA Guns, and this is probably gonna be the closest that they're gonna be to me out of all the times that they came around here. So I might jump in there, but I will say I'm kind of interested to see. I mean, the title the title of the albums I can work with. Like a couple people talk shit on it, but I mean, I hope that it kind of like tells me that we're gonna get something like Hollywood Vampires or Cocked and Loaded or something like that. Like go back to that feel because I wasn't very impressed with Checkered Past. That's the last album that I picked up from LA Guns. But like Missing Piece was fine. I like that. Some of the new stuff is good, but some of it is a hit and miss though. Some of the albums, and I just was not a fan of Checkered Past. So I'm if I hear a good single or two or a good song or so, I might check it out. Pick up the album. So let's see what else we got here. All right. All right, it looks like we Poison drummer Ricky Rocket and Dangerous Toys among inductees in the Metal Hall of Fame in 2025. Interesting. So what? Just Ricky, and then the band of Dangerous Toys. Let's see here. Rocket is one of the founding members. Yeah, okay, yep. Of Poison. Metal Hall of Fame announced that a partial list of rock stars that to be inducted in 2025, sponsored by Sammy Radio, Ellison Coffee. Okay, so it looks like here. Danger. It just says Dangerous Toys. I'm guessing it doesn't really. If I'm unless I'm just missing it here. It just looks like Ricky Rocket is only getting in not Poison? I don't know. I mean, I don't follow Metal Hall of Fame, so, I maybe Poison is in and they're just putting Ricky in now. I don't know. And then hopefully Dangerous Toys is in because like, Dangerous Toys is a great band. Hellacious Acres, great album. Debut album, really good. Pissed is good as well. Yeah, I'm a fan of Dangerous Toys, and they deserve to be in there. Let's see. Alright, let's go back here. What else we got? Let's see. Premiere of Affairs, I believe is how you say it. Cover of Alley Cat's scratch track, "Take a Bite Out of Me." I did see Affair promoting that. I didn't get to listen to that yet, that cover, but that is a great track from Alley Cat Scratch. Alley Cat Scratch is awesome. Great, great album coming out. Dead Boys in Trash City from '93, I believe. Ah man, I respect the boys from Alley Cat Scratch because they were like, "Yep, it's 1993, it's 1994. We're gonna put our dick out on the table with this album, and we are gonna hang it up." You know, they hung it up in like what 94, 95 when obviously could tell that this wasn't cool anymore. The glam, the sleaze wasn't cool anymore, and they're like, "Well, we're gonna go out on the way we want to go out." So, and they closed up shop basically in L.A. or San Fran. I can't remember which it was. Somewhere in California. Let's see. All right. Overdrivers, a pretty good new band. I don't have anything of theirs, but I do know a couple singles from them. They kind of remind me of like a Rhino Bucket, Dirty Looks, AC/DC type feel. Good stuff. I Hate Myself from upcoming album Dreams on Toast. Interesting. I wouldn't. I would like to pick up an Overdrivers album. I mean, I just never got. I never seen one in a at my, record store or even online and stuff. But yeah, I wouldn't mind running across one of their albums and picking it up. Everything I heard, I enjoyed, so I have no reason to not pick up an album. So I'm interested to see what they say here about the Babylon AD brand new album, which I did do my uh top 5 albums of 2024. So by the time you're reading this, it probably is out. So you can click the link below to watch that video to see where it gets put in the top 5 ranking of 2024. Let's just read a little bit here of the review. And let's say I got to say that I've been sitting on reviewing Babylon AD's latest album, Rome Wasn't Built in a Day, for more than 6 months now. It has been out for a while. It's not that it's a bad record in any way. In fact, it's got some great songs, but I've always felt that something is missing. It started off promising with the first single, Wrecking Machine, which was released in advance of the album. Wrecking Machine is a true rock and roll anthem and will take you back to the golden days of hair metal. Uh, I, I, I have some disagreements already. Um, I am a big fan of this album. I think it's probably better than Sacred Heart, their second album. Not better than the debut, obviously, but I was super impressed with this. But I wasn't that big of a fan of Wrecking Machine, and I'm still not the biggest fan of Wrecking Machine. That it's not my favorite song off the album, certainly. It's probably not even top 3, to be honest with you. But I think the album's strong, totally. So let's. I'll read all this later, but we'll just, unless you guys want me to read it now, we'll read it now. Fuck it. All right. Unfortunately, Wrecking Machine is a one off on this album. There are simply no other songs that can match the track's excitement and energy. What follows for the rest of the album are slower paced tracks, while enjoyable and well crafted, which, yes, they 100% are well crafted, and they are some slower paced, but I think it's fine in the context of the album. Never come okay, back to the article here. Never come close to reaching the climax attained with Wrecking Machine. There are a few additional songs that would have you singing along, such as the title track, Looking for a Heartbeat. Those are the three best songs by far on this album. What I found listening to the album the first time and now more than 6 months later is that Rome Wasn't Built in a Day is an enjoyable record and there's definitely some depth to the songs. It seems like it lacks some punch for me that makes it a go-to record. For instance, the second track, Pain, is a slow-paced rocker with a mean guitar riff. It is what I would consider a bit of a filler track and one of those classic 80s albums. I don't know. I maybe, I mean, I guess I could see what he's saying, but I'm fine with Pain. I'm all right with it. To be honest with you, I think there's some filler, a decent amount of filler on Nothing Sacred. Like I think that's a big letdown from the debut. Not I still like Nothing Sacred. I still listen to it once in a while. But and there's some great songs off of it. But it just doesn't match to the debut. But I think Rome Wasn't Built in a Day here is going back to not so much filler, 100%. So, yeah, I'm a little off on that. Let's see here. The ballad "I Will Never Break Again" is a good one with Derek carrying the song with his strong vocals, which Derek does have great vocals. It's amazing that he still sounds the way he does on this album. It sounds like something back in the golden era of Babylon AD. Let's see here. What comes next to you may ask, why another ballad, In the Face of God? It's actually one of the best tracks on the record, but putting three ballads in the span of four songs on the album kills whatever momentum that could have been achieved. Now, I do agree generally with this that I wouldn't put three ballads in a row, or you got to have some kind of fluidity to the album. It has to pace well. But I think it was fine for this album. I think it was okay. It didn't bother me that much because the ballads or the slower songs were that good. I you had to overlook the pace. Now, sure, yes, I would have probably added another fast song. That is what one of the small negative things about this album is that the pacing. I can see what he's saying here about that, but with the slower songs still being great songs that I still visit 6 months, a year later, I it doesn't that doesn't that's not a hang up for me. But if you don't really care for the songs, then I can understand where you're coming from with that thought. All right. Let's see. These wait. These guys could have perhaps been a lot bigger had they tapped into their Christian roots and gone the Striper route. In any case, Face of God yeah, Face of God is the best ballad on the record. I can agree with that. Sometimes Love is Hell is really good though. I just wish it hadn't been placed so close to the other two ballads on the album. By the time Face of God comes along on the record, I've had just about enough of the slower paced ballads. Babylon and their latest album with a bang with a very solid Shut Up, and they surprised me with an instrumental Super Beast, which Shut Up, I'm that's actually one of the weaker tracks for me, honestly. I feel like that's a filler album in my opinion, or a filler song. I'm not sure why the band elected not to put some lyrics on the last track, but it's a good one. And I kind of agree. I think that could have been a good song, Super Beast, which was the instrumental. I think it could have been a good song with some lyrics in there. Overall, I have a bit of love and hate relationship with Babylon AD's latest album. There are some real highs with the killer opening track, Wrecking Machine, but somewhere along the middle of the album, it feels like my interest starts to wane with all the slower packed tracks and or ballads. I can get that, but I think the ballads are the strongest part of this album, along with a couple of the mid tempo to faster tempo songs. Let's see. It's not anywhere enough to shut the album off, but I find my mind and interest kind of wavering towards the second half of the album before those last two tracks kick in to close things off properly. Okay, I mean, he's not necessarily talking shit on the album, but I think he's I can agree when you're not in a good pace of an album, it can hurt, no doubt. But I think the Strongs are strong enough to overtake that. I think this is a fine album. It's in my top five of my 2024 ranking, and there's a reason for that because I think the songs are just that strong. And it's right. It's next to me in my ranking of Babylon AD's albums, in their catalog. It's second. It has to be second. It has to be behind the debut. Nothing sacred, is good, but I visit this album. Rome wasn't built in a day way more than I do nothing sacred. So, all right, let's see here. What else we got? Let's do one more here, and we will wrap up shop. I want to see what they're saying about the heavy bones here. I'm quite interested because I listened to this about a week ago, just randomly, and I'm like, "Damn it, this is good stuff." I did do a review of this as well. You can check that as well above in the description box. So let's see here. Let's see. All right, we'll read this here pretty fast. Back in the late '80s, early '90s, some of the biggest hair metal bands started to fracture and groups members started to leave and start more blues based bands. Correct, which was great. A few that come to mind are Badlands, Lynch Mob, and Heavy Bones, and all great bands. Badlands case, Jakey Lee, yep, came from Ozzy. Let's see, Ray Gillen and bassist Greg and drummer Eric Singer, with the latter of them subsequently spending 2 decades with one of the most famous bands, Kiss. The lineup. So okay, they're just giving some background. Lynch Mob, yes, with George Lynch and Dokken. Great first two albums. Let's see here. All right, so the band featured Joel Ellis from Cats and Boots, Frankie Manelli from Quiet Riot, guitar great Gary Hoey, and bassist Rex, and that it made up Heavy Bones. So Heavy Bones had a short-lived run, given that they released only one record in 1992, self-titled, and they only ended up playing a handful of shows, sacrilege, which I agree. To make matters worse, Heavy Bones' debut album actually did not feature bassist Rex, since the band's producer Richie and manager Dave at the time elected not to have bassist play on the record. The real Heavy Bones' first release, Rare and Unreleased, which is what we're talking about here, um, rights the ship in regard since the entire band, including Rex, is featured on the album. It's actually not really a studio album, but pre-production live rehearsals by four band members playing together at the same time back in 1991. I confess not having been that much of a Heavy Bones fan in the past. That's sacrilege. Just kidding. But no, it's Heavy Bones. That debut album is a top 50 album in my opinion of hair metal. Despite the almost cult-like status that their debut album has received, but I have to say that the real Heavy Bones record has converted me into a true fan. It I've been a fan of that album for a long, long time. I love the singles off of it, the ballads even before I had the album. And I found a reissue of the debut, and I was like, "Holy shit!" It was $20, which at the time I was like, "Fuck, $20 just for a CD." But I bit the bullet and I got that. I was yeah, that it was probably like 5 years ago, and you know, back back 5 years ago, $5 was or $20 was a little more than $20 today. 5 years later. So, but I'm certainly glad I picked it up. Granted, it did take me time to warm up to the entire record. At first, I found that it had too many slower or mid-paced songs. Damn, are we talking about Babylon AD here? And I agree. There are great ballads on on this as well, the new Heavy Bones record. But upon listening to it many times, I found that the tracks had bluesy Led Zeppelin vibes. Correct. Uh, the more I listened to them, the more that I liked them. Ellis took about 2 years to put everything together, and there are some additional vocals from Joel and additional parts from Hoey. The two musicians reconnected about 1 year in this project. Naturally, Benelli could not add any parts given that he passed away 5 years ago. And although Rex is finally featured on some Heavy Bones tracks for the world to hear, he didn't add any bass tracks to the original recordings, given that he is still missing in action. Yeah, I don't. I think he. I don't even think he did anything even shortly after this. I think this is just it and fell off the face of the earth. I could go track after track, but let's just say that if you like some of those great albums of the hair metal golden era, uh, which had more variety, a little more complex blues based tracks, and less straightforward 80s anthems, you're going to like this album. That's a decent way of explaining the debut. Um, the debut, anyway, I would say. But even for this, the unreleased stuff is certainly really good and a nice compliment to the uh, the debut, which certainly get your hands on the debut. But this is a very nice compliment to the debut. Um, let's see here. My favorite tracks on this album is "Friends." That's a good one. And "Easy Voodoo." Ooh, I don't know if I can kind of remember that one. I Friends is good. For You, My Queen's okay. I like that one too, but I'll tell you some of my favorites here once we get down to the track list. It would have been a shame to keep these great tracks under grasp for so kudos to Joel for taking the time and investing some money and to get this album out. I agree 100%. And Joel, when I interviewed Joel Ellis last year, he was talking about this album. It was around the time this got released, and I was quite excited to get my hands on this album because like I said, I loved the debut for since I was a teenager, and just to hear more of the original run around the time of that album, and not trying to change for the changing music scene, I was like, okay, I gotta hear this shit. So good news is that Joel is planning on releasing a few more volumes of the Real Heavy Bones, so hopefully there will be material in the coming years. And yeah, I don't want to say too much of what Joel told me, but we have hope. We have hope to look forward to. So let's go to track listings. All right, yeah, 4 a.m. Obviously that's on the debut though. Little Bad Boy Blue. Good song. Friends is good, like you said. I'll be thinking of you. Say goodbye. Oh man, yeah, yeah, yeah. Man on the Moon. I do really like Man on the Moon too. So those are probably my four favorites. The one I named out. So guys, that wraps up this. I think I kept you long enough. But if you guys like me doing the reading out these album reviews and giving my thoughts, let me know. Try and might do that more on the news since some of the news dries up, kind of quick. Obviously, because this isn't the mainstream anymore. So definitely, we might be able to work something out with that. So guys, that pretty much wraps it up here. Let me know in the comments what you guys thought of those two albums.
Talk to me.
Any of the news that's coming out here. Quite interested to see what you guys have to say about that. But until next time, guys, take care and stay out of that collateral damage.
Yeah, I wrote that. It's called I Want to Rock Your Body. And then in parentheses it says to the break of dawn.